Hi guys, this is Roscoe with my review of the Hot Toys 1/4 scale T100 endoskeleton figure from the film The Terminator. Let's go take a look at the box. Here we have a large size box, obviously needed to house this massive collectible. Now in comparison to the Enterbay 1/4 scale figures, this box is a lot smaller than theirs. I'd say it's probably about, a third of the size. So Hot Toys have done well to keep it as compact as possible. We have a nice sort of reflective sheen to the box, metallic sort of sheen. The Terminator endoskeleton heading. Got all this intricate sort of detailing of sort of circuitry all over the box. I've got this from Sideshow, so I've got the Sideshow exclusive. Got this awesome endo skull on the box as well. Really large, really reflective. And that's sitting on a sort of foam cutout, so it's raised off the box. So it's really nice. Overall the box is quite solid, very sturdy. Even without the figure, it's very heavy and still very strong. As we go down, we have a sort of badge type logo, 1/4 scale, which is raised off the box as well. Got this circuitry stuff continuing on. We've got Hot Toys 1/4 scale 002. This is the first 1/4 scale released by Hot Toys, but probably the second announcement. That's why it's got the 02 code number. So we're still waiting for the 01, which is the Dark Knight Rises Batman. So I'll be looking forward to that. So overall, excellent packaging by Hot Toys. Then we have the sort of Terminator logo on the top. I'm not going to pull all the insides out, guys. There's plenty of reviews that show the inside of the box. You have like a tab on the side here, which is flip open. You slide it out, and there's foam overlays. Then you have the figure. You pull the foam that the figure sits in out, and you have clamshell bottom layer, which has all the accessories in the stand. Overall, excellent package, guys. Really well done. Alright, we get our Hot Toys instruction leaflet. Now this obviously tells you all the different ways to move the parts. We've got a cleaning cloth. Being that it's chrome, you're going to get a lot of, or chrome looking, you're going to get a lot of fingerprint marks on it by playing around with it. Got extra tubing, springs. So if anything goes wrong with the springs on the figure, you've got some spares, which is really nice. Would have preferred an extra set. In the long run, if something goes wrong with the whole set of it, you've got a whole spare set. But it doesn't matter, we've still got, I'm glad they've actually given us some. Alright, we've got this clip here. Now that's to clip the plasma rifles on his back. I've seen a few pics on Google Images that show that. Now this being the exclusive, this was floating around in the top layer of the box, so it's a spare one. It's because he comes with the extra rifle, being the exclusive, so you can clip both of them on. So if you get the exclusive, be careful, be mindful that that's floating around somewhere on the top of the box when you get the figure out. Alright, and he comes with his plasma rifles. Now they're only plastic, but there's quite enough detail on it. I'm happy they did it plastic because it's needed to be light. You don't want to put extra pressure on these fingers and the arm joints. So if they were die cast, it would have been too much weight. They still look good. The guns in the film were very prop-like anyway, so it's not really a big problem for me. Here we have that little dot there where the clip fits into. And this being the Sideshow exclusive, you get the extra one, which I had to have because it's just the double plasma look is awesome. And here's the figure, guys. Absolutely amazing. And lastly, here's the stand he comes with. The paintwork is not the best. I wouldn't say it's the worst either. Serves its purpose. You don't want it too extravagant to take sort of the, look away from the figure. Got the Terminator endoskeleton nameplate there. Overall, I think it's painted okay. Just not a fan of the red in the cracks there. Sort of resembles like lava or molten sort of rock look, which we never saw in the film, but I'm going to assume that as being blood or someone he's just killed. So would have preferred it without it. I don't think it's necessary to put that in there. Yeah, so you don't get much with him, guys, but you don't need it. You just look at this figure and it's just, you know, you don't need to look anywhere else. Here we have the endoskull. Just the shine and the gloss in that. Finally glad to have a chrome looked endoskeleton in the collection. I've bought many endoskeletons in the last 10 years. None have looked exactly like the movie with that mirror chrome finish. Some have resembled steel. Some do look like metal, don't get me wrong, but just this extra level of reflection I haven't seen before, and I'm finally happy to have. A lot of companies do battle damage versions because they they can't get that look. So by doing battle damage, it looks right because they don't need to do it glossy. But Hot Toys have sort of broken the boundaries with this electroplating look. I've seen a lot of customizers do it to their NECA figures, and I've always been envious of them because they just look so nice. You got some sort of scars and scuffs or splatters on his armour there. A lot of people said, you know, they thought that was going to come all clean. But if you do look in the prototype pics, you do see it. You just have to look carefully. It is there. Now there's a backplate here to turn the light up feature on. So you pull that out, there's 4 pins, and once you've taken this off, there's a little button at the top that turns the light up eye feature on. There's just so many different intricacies with this figure. Everything moves. Every piston works. The articulation is way better than you think. It just looks like a statue, but it sort of moves it just like it would in the film. In every spot. It's absolutely amazing. And this has easily become one of my best figures in the whole collection. I've only had it for just over a week now. Even with the mouth, so that opens up. Closes all little bits in the cheeks that move in and out. All these working pistons here. The arms sort of move up and down. You can move them in and back. You've got sort of degree of movement here. You can bend that right around. Just by doing that though, you've got this attached to this cable or the spring. Now that's sort of just slotted in there and just resting. It's not actually connected to anything. So if you did overdo it, they'd probably just pull it out the hole. You just have to slide it back in. You've got the movement in the arm here. Got movement in the elbow. You can twist the arm here. You can push the arm forward and back here with these sort of piston rods here, and you've got all the movement of the fingers. So just everything and anything moves on this guy to get whatever pose you want. All these little individual sort of vertebra move. You've got this sort of plate here, sort of comes in and out. Now a lot of people are complaining, or some people have been nitpicking a few things in this figure, saying it's too shiny, these don't look right, they should have done it all glossy, or it's, you know, too glossy. But if they actually pose their figure, you see this actually does angle. If you angle the spine back and tilt it forward, you get that angled look. When it's too straight, it means you haven't actually posed your figure right, you've just got it straight out of the box. That's how it looks when it's just straight out of the box. So have a play around with it. You will get the look like it is in the film if you just sort of experiment with it. All these pistons here work. You've got sort of board joint there, so you can angle that out and in. They can go forward and back like kicking motion. Got the knee joint. You've got the twist part here. And you've got all these toes here that move. Even the top parts here, they go back and forwards. All these pistons in here work when you tilt the foot. It's absolutely astonishing the amount of movement and piston rods that work on this figure. You can sort of see the ball joint there. In here, you got the ball joint sort of up in there, so you can get sort of twist movement, so you can tilt that side to side, forward and back. There's nothing really holding it back at all to get a nice pose. The shoulder sort of shoulder bone sort of areas, they push in and out, so you can have them as far as you want back in. I think it's absolutely amazing, guys. I don't understand some of the people complaining, because we have not got an endoskeleton like this yet from any company. I'm finally glad to purchase one and say this is a masterpiece in my collection. I'm getting an acrylic display especially made for it, keep the dust off it. Now half it's die cast, half it's plastic. Your main parts such as this chest part here, the hip area, the legs here, this sort of part here on the top of the arm, they're all solid die cast. But all your sort of piston rod areas, they're all plastic. The crotch sort of stand doesn't really do it for me. They could have come up with a better stand to hold it up. He's doing very well holding himself up. There's quite a lot of weight to this figure, but that there's basically useless. I think he's doing all the standing himself. Could have come up with something nicer than that. All those fingers, they move. You can pose them how you want. They're not as fragile as they seem. You do want to take your time and move things carefully, but they feel a lot more solid than the 1/6 scale versions. And this puts the 1/6 scale Hot Toys figure that I have to absolute shame. Just look at that. Obviously you don't have the chrome look on the shins. It's made to give it that sort of battle. He's sort of in the midst of battle. It still looks shiny, but it just looks like it's been burnt with flames, or if he's been walking around in the dirt, it will get sort of scuffed up. So I've given it that little bit of realism to it, so it doesn't look too factory fresh and fake looking. It's just, things like that. As glossy it does look and as clean as it does look, just those little things like a bit of a machined look in there as well, just adds to the realism. And I don't see that as a downside, I see it as a positive. Some people are saying the head sculpt was a little bit too small, but looking at it there, I don't think I want it any bigger than that. I think it looks perfectly proportioned. And having a higher neck, a bit more anatomically correct than we've seen other endoskeletons. With their neck so short on the other endoskeletons, if you were to imagine putting skin on it, the head would be within the shoulders. At least with this though, it looks a bit more like it'd be realistic. Absolutely amazing figure, guys. If you're on the fence about this, I wouldn't wait too long. In my experience, most endoskeletons sell out very quickly and they go for massive prices. And I think this is the best one I've ever seen, especially in a quarter scale or by any 1/6 scale I've seen. I think the exclusive is already sold out at Sideshow. I think the regular is available still. Won't be for long, that just comes with the one gun. I'll put this next to my Entebbe T800 Battle Damaged, which is an absolutely amazing figure. The quarter scale Entebbe, and that has one of the best head sculpts I've ever seen, but this is taking all the tension away from it. Standing them side by side, I'm looking at this more than I am with that. So once you see this in person, guys, you just think, wow. And if you're willing to spend the money, I'm sure you'll get it in a heartbeat. Only one criticism I have, just before I finish up, guys, is just they put these shoulder rods on back to front. There's pins in here that hold it in. Not sure if they're metal or plastic. I'm not willing to try it in case they are plastic and they snap. I'm curious to see if someone tries it though. But that should have been, the thick section should be there, the thin section should be there. That's the only criticism. Somewhere along the assembly line process they put it on backwards. That's with most of them I've seen anyway. If you look at the proto pic, you see it's correct. But on this, they've just flipped it around. Not a major issue, it's not ruining the figure by any means, but just one thing I picked up on it. Alright guys, I'll leave you here with that. Hope you enjoyed this review of this awesome collectible by Hot Toys. Go pick it up, guys, before it sells out. It's absolutely amazing. Alright guys, catch you later.